US Navy uncovers Iran's secret submarine base in Hormuz. Then everything changed. The most critical choke point on the planet, 21 miles wide, 1/3 of the world's oil passes through it every single day. 14 million barrels every sunrise, without interruption. The economies of Europe, Asia, and North America are all downstream of what happens in this narrow corridor of water between Iran and Oman. And for decades, Iran has been hiding something underneath it. Then the US Navy found it. What happened next didn't just change the balance of power in the Persian Gulf. It forced a complete reassessment of every strategic assumption the West had made about Iran's military capability. Every doctrine, every targeting plan, every confidence estimate about what the US military could see, track, and destroy if conflict ever erupted in this region. Every single one. This is the full story, every layer, every implication, and the question that nobody in Washington wants to answer out loud. Weapon 1, the discovery. It started with an anomaly. Routine signals intelligence, passive sonar arrays embedded along the Gulf floor, part of a surveillance architecture that stretches back to Cold War-era underwater listening networks, had been picking up low-frequency acoustic signatures for months. Not ship traffic, not geological activity, not the ambient noise of commercial tanker engines that the system filters out automatically. Something else, something that moved on a schedule, something that stopped, paused, and then disappeared in the same coordinates, repeatedly, at predictable intervals. The US Navy's Fifth Fleet, headquartered in Manama, Bahrain, flagged the data in routine intelligence reviews. Pattern recognition algorithms cross-referenced the acoustic profile with known Iranian submarine classes. The Ghadir class, approximately 29 meters long, diesel-electric propulsion, designed specifically for shallow coastal operations. Then the Fateh class, larger, quieter, capable of launching anti-ship cruise missiles while submerged. Both classes known, both classes tracked, but neither class capable of simply vanishing from acoustic surveillance without explanation, unless they weren't surfacing anymore, unless they had somewhere to go. Satellite imagery was tasked immediately. High-resolution passes over the northern Strait of Hormuz, focusing on the Iranian coastline between Bandar Abbas and Qeshm Island. The imagery was analyzed at multiple spectral ranges: standard optical, infrared, synthetic aperture radar capable of detecting construction disturbances beneath surface cover. Every tool in the collection architecture was directed at that coastline. What the imagery revealed stopped analysts cold: a tunnel entrance, carved directly into the limestone cliff face along the Iranian shoreline, submerged to a depth that renders it invisible from standard orbital passes. Invisible unless you know exactly where to look, exactly what angle of solar reflection to filter for, and exactly what geological inconsistency suggests human excavation rather than natural erosion. Iran had built an underground submarine base, inside the rock, below the waterline, directly adjacent to the most heavily trafficked maritime choke point on Earth. The implications were not theoretical. They were immediate, and they were severe. Complete on-sea on what they built and how they hid it. Understand what this facility represents from an engineering standpoint before evaluating what it means strategically. Blasting submarine pens into coastal rock is not a new concept. Norway constructed hardened submarine facilities inside fjord cliffs during the Cold War specifically to protect assets from Soviet airstrikes. The Soviet Union built its own version in Crimea, the Object 825 facility near Balaclava, a tunnel complex capable of sheltering an entire submarine squadron underground, where it remained classified for decades after construction. China has constructed similar hardened naval facilities along its southern coastline near the South China Sea approaches. The concept is proven, the engineering is understood, but building one that is functionally invisible from the most sophisticated satellite surveillance architecture ever assembled, that is a different level of operational security entirely. That requires years of covert planning, years of excavation conducted under deliberate concealment measures, construction materials delivered by sea at night or through underground channels, workers operating under compartmentalized information protocols, and a disciplined blackout that Iran maintained successfully for an estimated 6 to 8 years of active construction. 6 to 8 years, while the most capable surveillance state in human history was watching. The facility itself, based on current intelligence assessments, is designed around multiple berths, meaning multiple submarines can be sheltered, rearmed, refueled, and redeployed simultaneously, all without ever surfacing into satellite view. The tunnel infrastructure is believed to include maintenance capability, weapon storage, crew facilities, and critically, submerged exit channels that allow submarines to depart into open water without appearing on the surface at any point during the process of leaving port. Think about what that means operationally. A submarine can enter the facility submerged, remain below surveillance threshold for its entire maintenance cycle, reload weapons, and depart, all while appearing, to every external observer, to have simply vanished. No heat signature, no surface wake, no radar return, nothing. The weapons loadout of submarines operating from this facility is what transforms this from a strategic inconvenience into a genuine first-strike capability. Iran's submarine-launched anti-ship missiles, specifically the JASC-2, with a publicly assessed range of over 270 kilometers, can reach any vessel in the Persian Gulf from a submerged launch platform. Add the Iranian Navy's known inventory of bottom-planted sea mines, submerged AF series, capable of targeting specific vessel acoustic signatures, and you have an area denial package that could, in a conflict scenario, shut down the Strait of Hormuz to commercial and military traffic within hours. Hours, not days. Hours. 14 million barrels of oil per day. Halted. Lloyd's of London insurance markets declaring the Strait a war zone and pulling coverage for commercial vessels. Global energy prices spiking within 24 hours. Asian economies, Japan, South Korea, China, India, all simultaneously facing energy supply disruption. And the trigger mechanism sitting in a hardened facility that conventional airstrikes cannot easily neutralize. Iran built this base understanding exactly what it enables. The design is not purely defensive. It is a loaded weapon positioned at the throat of the global economy. The intelligence failure nobody is talking about. Here is where the story becomes more complicated and more uncomfortable. The facility was not constructed overnight. Geological analysis of the excavation scope, cross-referenced with construction timelines inferred from archived satellite imagery and signals collection gaps, suggests that active excavation began no later than 2016, possibly as early as 2014. The facility that was eventually discovered represents the end product of approximately 8 to 10 years of covert construction activity. That means United States intelligence assets, the full spectrum of collection capability, including National Reconnaissance Office satellites, NSA signals interception networks, CIA human intelligence networks inside Iran, and allied intelligence services operating across the Gulf region, all failed to detect the construction phase of a strategic military installation for nearly a decade. Let that register. A decade. This is not a minor intelligence gap. This is not an understandable miss of a small mobile asset or a temporary facility. This is a permanent, large-scale underground naval installation built over years, and the most capable intelligence architecture in human history missed it entirely until the facility was operational and submarines were already using it. That is a systemic failure, and the implications of that failure extend far beyond the Hormuz base itself, because the question that now must be asked, and that no senior intelligence official will answer publicly, is not just how this was missed. The question is what else has been missed. If Iran successfully concealed this facility for a decade, operating in a region under continuous surveillance pressure, what other strategic assets are currently concealed and awaiting discovery, or never discovered at all? The answer, by definition, cannot be known. That is the nature of unknown unknowns. But what is known is this: Iran has invested systematically and heavily in hardening and concealing its military infrastructure over the past 15 years, specifically in response to repeated Israeli and American strikes on above-ground assets. Missile production facilities have moved underground, drone assembly plants have moved underground, command and control nodes, fuel depots, weapon storage, and critical communications infrastructure have all progressively migrated below the surface, into mountains, into rock, into places where conventional surveillance loses resolution and conventional munitions lose penetrating power simultaneously. The submarine base is not an isolated incident. It is evidence of a doctrine, a deliberate national strategy built on a single foundational assumption. Anything visible will eventually be targeted. Therefore, nothing critical should ever be visible. Ever. The U.S. Navy's discovery didn't reveal just a base. It revealed the blueprint for how Iran intends to survive and fight in a conflict with a technologically superior adversary. And the blueprint has been under construction, undetected, for a decade. Within 72 hours of a confirmed all-source intelligence assessment, the operational posture of U.S. naval assets in the Fifth Fleet area of responsibility shifted measurably. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, already operating in the broader Central Command area, adjusted patrol patterns to increase coverage of the northern Gulf approaches. P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, the most capable airborne anti-submarine warfare platform in the U.S. inventory, increased sortie frequency over the strait, flying lower, slower, and with expanded sensor deployment on each pass. The tempo of undersea surveillance operations, details of which remain classified at the highest levels, accelerated significantly, with additional submarine assets reportedly repositioned into the Gulf of Oman to establish a persistent detection barrier outside the strait. Diplomatic channels were simultaneously activated. The United Kingdom's Royal Navy, which maintains a standing presence in the Gulf through its permanent joint operating base in Bahrain, was briefed and began coordinating patrol patterns with U.S. assets. French naval vessels operating under European Maritime Awareness Mission protocols received updated intelligence packages covering the revised threat assessment. And Gulf Cooperation Council partners, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, were provided sanitized threat summaries sufficient to adjust their own maritime security protocols without revealing the full scope of collection methods used to identify the facility. The response was fast, It was coordinated, and it was deliberately kept below the threshold of public acknowledgement, because acknowledging the discovery publicly would confirm to Iran exactly what had been found and exactly what collection method identified it, burning a surveillance capability that took years to develop and position. But here is the operational reality that no press release will ever acknowledge, and that the response, however capable and coordinated, cannot fully address. Surveillance is not neutralization. Knowing the base exists does not mean it can be destroyed. Not easily, not cleanly, not without consequences that extend far beyond the military dimension of the problem. The tunnel entrance is submerged. The interior is carved into limestone bedrock. The massive ordnance penetrator, the GBU-57, the largest conventional bunker-busting munition in the U.S. arsenal, capable of penetrating 200 feet of reinforced concrete, is designed for ground-level hardened targets. A submerged cliff entrance, with water-absorbing and deflecting blast energy, presents a fundamentally different and far more resistant targeting problem. And that gap, between knowing the threat and being able to neutralize it without triggering the very escalation the threat is designed to produce, is where the entire strategic problem lives. It is uncomfortable, it does not resolve cleanly, and it is not going away. Iran built this facility understanding exactly what it enables and exactly what it prevents. Every meter of rock overhead is deliberate. Every submerged exit channel is engineered. Every element of the design serves a single strategic function: ensure that no adversary, however capable, can open a conflict against Iran without immediately confronting a weapon they cannot easily silence, aimed at the artery that feeds the global economy. The US Navy found the base. That is a genuine intelligence achievement. The acoustic signatures, the satellite imagery analysis, the cross-reference pattern recognition, it worked. Eventually. But finding the base has not solved the problem. It has defined it more precisely. And in strategic competition, a precisely defined threat that cannot be immediately neutralized is sometimes more destabilizing than an ambiguous one. Because now both sides know exactly what has been revealed, and both sides must recalculate. Iran will harden. Iran will disperse. Iran will build deeper. The doctrine is validated, not defeated, by being found. And somewhere along that coastline, in rock not yet analyzed at the right spectral angle, the next facility may already be nearing completion. The strait holds its breath. The submarines are in the water. The decisions being made right now, in classified briefing rooms, in fleet operations centers, in underground command nodes no satellite has located, will determine whether this becomes a turning point or the quiet opening move in something far larger. The Navy found one. The question is how many are left to find. Subscribe now. The next chapter is already being written underground. You need to be here when it surfaces.